Hey friends, it's Rick. I'm back for another video. Today we are making 4 cards. Yes, 4 cards. 4 unique cards using the We're Not Alone stamp set from Scrappy Boy Stamps. There's our stamp set. We're also going to be using the coordinating dies. And then we're going to use, one of the cards, we're going to use the crafty phrases, oh my word dies, also from Scrappy Boy Stamps, as well as the We're Not Alone pattern paper pad, and the treasure map nested card dies for one of the cards. I'm going to move all that out of the way, and we're going to get started on our first card. We're going to do a clean and simple card to begin with. And I do have all my parts and pieces already cut. We're going to need an A2 top folding card base and a gray cardstock. And then our plain regular card front, which is Nina Silhouette 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to flip that over and use the back. I'm going to come in first and do a little bit of ink blending since this is a clean and simple card. And I'm going to add a grounding area for our little character. And I have already stamped and colored them and die cut them out to speed up a little bit of time. Now, I'm going to need one of our sentiments and a block. And what we're going to do is just add a little bit of stamping. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Actually, we don't want it to be perfect. We want it to kind of be here and there. This is, I willingly participated in a campaign of misinformation. We're making a birthday card. And you can see I'm only inking up certain areas of the stamp each time, because I want it to kind of look like it's coming in like a teletype or something. It doesn't have to be all perfect. All right, here's that. Now I am going to clean this stamp and we're going to put it in the Misty and we're going to stamp our other 2 sentiments. We're going to use the same sentiment at the very bottom. And I'm also using the truth about your age is out there. This is one of the easiest cards for all of them. The other ones are a little bit more, that each one gets stepped up a little bit further each time. I'm going to stamp those sentiments down. Then I can move that. And I'm going to clean my stamps and I'll be right back. All right, I've got everything ready to go. I've actually went ahead and added foam adhesive behind our little guy here. Our little, well, in this show, he's a bad guy. So I guess in the stamp, he's going to be a bad guy too. So there's our little guy. We will take this and add that to our card. For our clean and simple card. All right, there is the first card we made. Here is the first version I made of it. Now, for our second card, we're getting a little messy. We're going to make a shaker card. So, I've got all my parts and pieces done here. Our card base, which is a black cardstock. I did cut a piece of white cardstock to go on the inside. So we will go ahead and do that. And I've got a strip of pattern paper. We're going to add that to the inside of our card as well, so that it mirrors the outside. We have a piece of pattern paper for the inside, or for the front. I chose the ones with the UFO pattern on it for the first layer. Then we're going to add our second layer here. We could go that way, or you could go with that side. Tone on tone, either one of them. I think we're going to do the green one on this card. Just going to put it about a third of the way down. Now, I did cut my frames out with the nested treasure maps. So this is the, these are the same size. I cut one out of window sheet and one out of the pattern paper. So we will layer those up together. I'm going to get some tape runner. Put that on. I'm going to fold those edges over. And we'll take our window sheet. I'm going to layer those up together. All right, there is our window. We're going to take some foam adhesive strips and we're going to pop behind our window. Get it nice and tight in there so that none of this will leak out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add on my panel here. And then we're going to add our shaker bits. I'm going to add some glitter. Try to keep it nice and contained. If you follow me, you know how much I despise glitter. All right, we're going to add some of these little sequins in here. We're going to add some green sequins. Sprinkle it in there as well. You can add as much or as little shaker feel as you like. We're going to take and peel off these backings. Make sure our little eyes are going the right direction. And there's our little shaker pocket. All right, we're going to add this little sentiment that says, I sweat glitter. So we're going to add that right there in the center. And then I have a little sub-sentiment that says, but glitter is a conspiracy, which is totally true. It is such a conspiracy. We're going to pop that on. And then we have our little boss that we will add on as well. Him right there, and he is perfectly fine. All right, so there is card number 2. Shake, shake, shake. And this is the first version I made. Card number 3, we're going to do a mixed media card. So we're going to do our mixed media part first. I have a piece of mixed media cardstock. We're going to take some twisted citron, some villainous potion, and a little bit of black soot, not a lot. And I'm going to spritz that with some water. And then I'm going to kind of break it up, those squares. We're going to take our 3.5 by 3 3/4 inch piece of mixed media cardstock, and we're going to start adding our color. And I will dry between each layer. All right, I went ahead and dried that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a second pounce of it to add some more texture in there. I will dry that. I'm going to clean this up, add some more color in just a second, so I'll be right back. All right, we're going to go in and add some more color. This time I'm just going to add some twisted citron. Where I want it to go. All right, we'll dry this layer and then we'll add another layer. All right, we're going to add a little bit more of the purple, the villainous potion. And I may add a little bit more of a green to darken it up just a little. A little bit darker shade. We'll see after this. All right, we'll dry that and we'll be right back. All right, I also spritzed it with a little water as well before I dried it completely. I am going to add that next color, a little bit of darker green. This is just mowed lawn. Just want to deepen up some of that green just a little bit in places. Just to add a little bit extra pop of color. All right, I'll dry this and we'll be right back. All right, now we're going to add a little bit more texture to our background panel. This is the inked up panel. We're going to take the alien head and the little X from the stamp set, and we're going to come in with just some distress ink. This is just black soot. We're going to just stamp this around a couple times. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I just want it to have a little bit of that background text to add some more texture into it. And this is just a perfect way to add a little bit of text and a little image back there. You're not going to see a lot of it, so it's okay, really okay. And you don't even have to ink the entire thing up as well. So I think one more, maybe right here, come off the page a little bit. And maybe one over here. And a little bit up here. All right, I'm going to clean up the stamps and I will be right back and we'll move on to our next step. All right, we're going to come on to our next step. We're going to take some vintage photo and gathered twigs, and we're going to add just a little distressing around our image here, just to add a little bit of age to it. And you will see why when I show you the finished card. Gathered twigs, we'll take a little bit of vintage photo, add in just here and there. Amp up that color just a little bit. Now, there is our little panel. All right. Now, for the rest of our parts and pieces, strip a little file tab that I made using a punch that I had and cut in half. I have a strip of white we're going to use. I have a piece of vellum we're going to use. A piece of plain notebook paper. And then a piece of our pattern paper. And then our cream card base. So we'll go ahead and add, we're gonna take our paper here, and I'm gonna take a distressing tool. You could use a pair of scissors if that's all you have, but I'm gonna use this distressing tool and come around the pattern paper. Just distress that edges. Because I want this to look as if it is a file that has been hidden away for a very long time. Like maybe it was from the original landing in Roswell. And it's been stored away in some government conspiracy theory facility for a long time. That's the story I'm telling myself in my head. All right, we're going to distress that a little bit, so we'll come around, add a little bit of the residual ink on our brush. Just add a little bit of color to that. Then we will attach this to our card. And then let me move that and clean this up. All right, we have our little panel we did, our distress panel. We're going to take that and we're going to add this to our card front. And we're going to kind of put it on at an angle. I also need to stamp our sentiment to our little tab where we can put that on there before I get this all the way stuck down. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to stamp I want to believe. there. Then I'm going to add a little color to this as well. Darken that up. We're just going to take that and we're going to tuck it under our little panel here as if it is a file tab. So we're going to actually move it down this way this time. Our little file folder. Now, you may be wondering why we have a piece of regular notebook paper. We're going to use this. We're going to take and pick out a couple stamps. And we're going to come in with our little alien and our little X. We're going to kind of tuck those together. We're going to stamp on top of our notebook paper. And I do want that to be going the right direction. We're just going to take and stamp it a couple times in different ways. Just like that, to add a little bit of something to the background. All right, we have our little images stamped on there. What we're going to do now is you're going to take and crumple your notebook paper up. Get it as tight as you can. It doesn't matter if that ink smears a little bit. That's perfectly fine. It's just going to add to the texture of what we're going to do. Now, we're going to take our vintage photo and our gathered twigs, and we're going to come right over our paper and just kind of lightly brush that ink across to help age that paper and to add a little texture to it. Same thing with our vintage photo. We're going to add some of that. Then we're going to take and our ink and come around the edge to add a little bit more of that vintage feel to the edges of it. And if you wanted to come in with a little black soot, you could. I'm going to come in with that's a little gathered twig around the edge. Gathered twig around the edge. Words are hard, y'all. Now we're going to take and add this to our card. So we're just going to add liquid glue behind here. I want this to look as if it's like a piece of paper that was in the file and someone has pulled it out to be discovered. And it's been there for a very long time. That's why we have all the wrinkles and everything. Now we're going to take our little strip of paper here and we are going to stamp our sentiment. And I'm just going to use the same one we used before. I'm just going to stamp it right in the center. Now I'm going to take and attach this to a strip of vellum. So let's pull in our little sticky mat, or grit slip mat here. Because I'm going to take that and I'm going to add it just right across that vellum. I really don't want it that high, so we're just going to put it right there. And then I'm going to trim that off. Like that. Then we will trim that off in just a minute. I'm going to add some foam strips behind that so that it stands up a little bit higher. I can add this to my card. I'm going to flip this over and cut the excess off. All right, I've got my card here. So you can see all that texture in there. We have our little conspiracy theorists. We're going to take and add them to our card. I'm going to pop him right here. And we'll add a little bit of glue to his feet. So he stands up on our sentiment. We have our other little guy here. And I did already pop them up. I just took the foam backings off of our foam squares. All right, and so there is card number 3. Our mixed media textured background. And this is the original card I made. And I will move this to the side and we'll make our last card. All right, for card number 4, we're going to make a pop-up card. So we're going to need a piece of 4.25 by 5.5 inch cardstock. And you're going to score it a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 on both ends. We also have our little piece for our layers here. And apparently I didn't write those on there. You can do whatever layers you want. We have a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of cardstock. That's going to be a matte layer. We have our pattern paper, which is a little bit, 1/8 of an inch smaller. And then our card base for the inside, our card insert for the inside is 4 by 5 1/4. And I have another top folding A2 card base in black cardstock. So we'll go ahead and add our inside layer. I've got a piece of pattern paper to match that we're going to add to that inside as well. We'll go ahead and layer up our pieces for here. So there's that layer. This piece we're going to do some ink blending on. And this is our pop-up panel. So we're going to take and fold those in. We want it to be a mountain, valley, mountain. Just like that on both sides. So you have your mountain, valley, mountain. And again, that measurement's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, scored at a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches on both sides. So you're going to score it on one side that way, flip it around, score it on the other. Now, this is going to get attached to the back of this panel right here. So we're going to take and add liquid glue. And then we will take and add that in the center. And then that will get attached to our card base. So we'll line that up where it's nice and centered. There's our little spring pop-up. All right, we're going to take and do our ink blending for this. Let me pull in my little silicone sheet here. And we're going to do like a galaxy, basically, is what we're going to do. So we're going to use our same inks here and do our night sky. And I'm going to start with my Twisted Citron. Add some down in here. Some in that corner. Over here. Then I'm going to switch to my Villainous Potion. that side here, here, right there. And I don't worry about, when I'm doing a galaxy, I do not worry if it smudges. If there's a big blotch, it doesn't matter because it's going to be okay. Now we're going to take our black, and I'm going to come around the edge and then pull that into that center here of our sky. For a nice spooky sky going on. You can see how it really does not matter how that looks because it's going to get nice and spooky. All right, I've pulled in my splat box. Since we're going to take our iridescent shimmer spray and some picket fence distress stain, and we're going to add our little stars. So I'm going to spritz that with the shimmer spray. That will help everything blend together and be nice and cohesive. And then I'm going to take and flick on a few little stars. Into our sky. All right, I'm going to dry this panel and I will be right back. All right, now this is a totally optional step. You could take and put this on your card and be perfectly fine. But we're going to step it up just a little bit. We're going to take and add in some trees. So I'm just going to take this is C7 from Copic. I'm going to draw a little line here. And I'm just going to add in, using that brush tip, some little squiggles for a distant set of pine trees. Just like that. I'm going to do one over here, that light color. And then I'm going to switch to C9 and do some darker ones. We're going to come right over our other tree here. I am going to come in and add a grounding here. That way our little people are not just standing in open air. You could even use the side of the marker here to get those skinny trees. One right here. You do want to have them in different heights. That's what's going to really make it look more like a tree in the background. Shadow of a tree. And you're going to come over some of the ones from before, because your trees are going to be layered. So make sure you layer them on. They're layered in real life. Make sure you layer them on your card. All right, one more layer, and we're going to come in with the black. This is just 110. This is really going to make everything else. These are going to make the back ones pop off really well. A nice big tall happy tree over here. You can see I'm just using that side of the brush tip to get those shapes. And I'm just moving it back and forth, keeping it really close, but giving it that pine tree look. And remember to vary your heights. You want different heights of trees. We're going to put one nice big tall happy tree right here. So we're just going to come down, add those little happy little branches. All right, so there is our little background. So we'll go ahead and mat this to our matte layer. Then we'll add that to our pop-up. Just like that. Now I'm going to take a strip of just plain white cardstock. I'm going to cut it down because I don't need that big of a piece. And I'm going to pull in my stamp positioning tool. We are going to stamp our sentiment. I'm going to stamp it right there. I'm going to stamp this in tuxedo black. Ink. All right, I'm going to come in with a YG23 marker. This is Copic. And I'm going to come right over my cardstock and give it a custom color. And I can go over, I'm going to go around those edge right there. And then I'm going to cut off one side at an angle. Just like that. So we'll come back right there with our marker and fill that white spot in. We're going to take our sentiment, and we have a little alien head. I'm going to add that to my sentiment over here. I'll flip that over. I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind it. All right, we're going to add our little sentiment up here to our pop-up card, and we're going to add our main characters. They are checking out this spooky forest for some investigation. We'll add our other little agent. And here's my pop-up card. So when you put it in the envelope, it's going to flatten down. When you pull it out, it will pop up like that. That center pop up. So we have our inside right there. Now, here is a look at the first card I made. And I'm going to pull in all 4 of our cards so we can have a look at those. All right, here is a look at all 4 cards that we made today. I hope that you find that this video useful and that you show you how to get a little bit more bang for your buck and stretch your stamps a little bit further than just a plain simple card. You can do a lot with them. If you like this video, you're probably going to like the one coming up over there, and I will see you over there. Bye, guys. Stay crafty. Love you.